one of the things, so before we moved to Indonesia, before that, I was a youth pastor at a really big church in America. So before Indonesia, I spent 8 years doing local church youth ministry. When I became a youth pastor, I was just 23 years old, all right? So I'm fresh out of seminary. I had all this energy, all these new ideas, and so finally I was able to be a full-timer and pursue youth ministry. Now, the church that I started the youth ministry at was my home church, okay? So it was already a big church, maybe around 3,000 people. Okay, so the youth ministry was about 100 teens when I came in. Over the next 8 years, we were able to grow the youth ministry from 100 to 500. Okay, and I'll tell you some stories of how that happened. But today's session is really on how do we do that? How can we establish a youth ministry that can see that kind of growth? Not because we want big, that's a different point for later. That's our goal for this session, is how can we see that? Now, when I moved to Indonesia 10 years ago, I thought, wow, if I'm going to work with young people, because my calling as a missionary and as a pastor, my calling is from Psalm 71. Psalm 71 says this: even when I'm old and gray, let me declare your glory to the next generation. Wow. Okay, so that is my calling. I feel a next generational calling that I always want to be work. So even when I'm old and gray, or I guess I could change that Bible verse to when I'm old and bald, but let me declare your glory to the next generation. So I always want to be working with the next generation. That is my heart, and that is my calling. So of course, in my 20s and my 30s, I worked with young people. Now I'm in my 40s, and I'm working with young people. And when I'm in my 50s, I love Ty and Sina. They are my example, my mentors, because they are old and gray. Don't tell them I said that. But they are working with the next generation. And so they're an incredible example and model to me. So 8 years of local youth ministry. Then I moved to Indonesia, and I'm ready to reach the next generation. 2 problems when I moved to Indonesia. Number 1, I've never done youth ministry in Indonesia. All right. Number 2, everybody's Muslim. All right, so hard to do youth ministry when everyone's Muslim, and I've never done it. So the first thing I did when I moved there is I became the volunteer youth pastor at a local church. So I volunteered. They didn't have a youth pastor, and so I said, I don't want to just talk about youth ministry from an American perspective. I want to learn how to be a youth pastor in an Asian perspective. So I volunteered at the local church, at our district superintendent's church, and my first disciple at that church is Rachel Kezia. She led the icebreaker yesterday. She was still a young person, and now I've discipled and mentored her, and now she's on our staff. All right. So 10 years later, she's gone from youth ministry to staff. All right. So that was the beginning. So when I speak today, please don't think, that's American perspective. No, these are the same things I did when I moved to Indonesia and was a volunteer youth pastor, just like many of you. Okay? And then after volunteering at a local church, we decided that we were going to start a campus ministry for Muslims. And so later this week, I'll be sharing the campus ministry. So I now run a campus ministry with over 250 Muslims involved in it. All right. So those of you in like Cambodia or Thailand or a country where Christianity is the minor religion, where there's another religion that's dominant, let me tell you good news. You can reach people in your country for Jesus. All right. So in Indonesia, almost everyone I know is Muslim, and we're still reaching them for Jesus. We have a healthy and growing youth and campus ministry. So from our campus ministry, so many people started getting saved, that the Assemblies of God Indonesia asked us to start our own church. All right? So now we have a campus ministry. We have three things. I'm sorry. We have three things. We have an English center. I teach English because I'm fluent in English also. So we have an English center. We have our campus ministry, and then we have our church. So that's kind of our progression of how we do things. Muslims will come to our English center to learn English. Then we invite them to be a part of Bible study. Then they get saved in our Bible study and join our church. So that's kind of the way things work. And then I travel all over Indonesia to help other people do that. So, all right. Enough about, a couple more things. I have two children. My daughter Phoebe is 9 years old, and my son Benaiah is 6 years old. Phoebe is so cute. She's like all girl. She's like very creative and loves drawing and unicorns and rainbows. And then my son Benaiah, he thinks he's a ninja. Alright, so he's like all boys. So I come home and he's usually hiding somewhere and he jumps out. Alright, so that's fine. So now you know kind of my history. Alright, my history of 8 years local youth pastoring in America, 10 years in Indonesia, working with youth in campus ministry, and now pastoring a church. So I think you and me might connect on some different levels. On the youth ministry level, or maybe the pastor level. So, okay. All right, Jalas. All right. Clear? All right. I'll try not to speak. My mind wants to go. My brain is jet lagged. So it's like going back and forth from English to Indonesian. All right, so please forgive me. All right, so I grew up in a church that had a youth group. Okay, youth group. I want to make the distinction in the next, however much time I have, the difference between youth group and youth ministry. Okay, youth group. Now I grew up in a church that had a youth group. Meaning it was a very closed group of people. And they all went to the same high school. I went to a different high school than all the other people at church. So when I came to church, I didn't have any friends because they were all from the same high school. When I was at school, man, I had a lot of friends. I played sports, really involved with school things. But when I arrived at church, I always felt like an outsider. Because none of the people at church, I never really felt like I was a part of things. So as I grew up in church, I disconnected from the youth group and got more involved in my school. And so from that experience, now when I was 17 years old, Jesus changed my life, okay? And then I went from my school back to my youth group, and I tried really, really hard to connect with the people in the youth group. But I always felt like, man, it was a group and not a ministry. So when I became a youth pastor, I said, you know what? I don't want to create a group of Christians. I want to mobilize Christians. I want to create a ministry that everyone feels welcome, that anyone can come, and that we're empowering the Christians to do ministry. So I want us to see the difference between a group and a ministry. Okay? So this is how I would describe it. Number one, or the first thing is this. I'd say a youth group is exclusive. All right, exclusive. Now, I was at the airport yesterday, and at the airport they have these lounges, okay, where you need to have a special card to get in. And if you go, or you have to pay money, and you can go to the exclusive lounge, all right? And in that club, in that lounge, there's like food and faster Wi-Fi, and everybody looks so rich and so famous, all right? Now, I'm on the outside, but there's this lounge, this club that looks so glamorous, right? That club is exclusive, only for members. And when I think of some youth groups, they're exclusive. It's just us. Us four, no more, all right? It's us. Whereas a youth ministry is inclusive, meaning everyone's welcome. Maybe you have problems, so do we. You're not perfect, Either are we. Everybody is welcome. A youth group says, no, it's just us. It's exclusive. A youth ministry is inclusive. And my prayer is that in this room, we are people who want to build a youth ministry, not a youth group. There's another thing. A youth group looks inward, right? They're always thinking about, hey, what kind of activities, what kind of things can we do? But a youth ministry, what are they doing? They're looking outward, right? How can we reach more people? How can we engage our campus? How can we bring more people in? So a youth group is always thinking about themselves. The youth ministry is always thinking about others. I would say this. A youth group is us four and no more. Us four and no more. Meaning this is our group of people. Whereas a youth ministry says, there's always room for one more. The first time I went to the Philippines was in 2005. And I was asked this question. How many Filipinos can you fit on an elevator? And I was thinking like, what? And they're like, yeah, how many Filipinos, are there any Filipinos in here, or are they all on the campus? Okay. So they said, how many? And I was like, what do you mean? Well, it depends on how big the elevator. No, they're like, no. And I said, well then, what's the answer? How many Filipinos can you fit on? They said, one more. They said, there's always room for one more. You're always just kind of one more person in, all right? And I think that's a great example. Or so then they said, how many people can you fit on a jeepney in the Philippines? One more. You can always add one more. Somebody's like hanging on the back. All right. And I think of youth ministry like that. How big can you? How many people can come to your youth ministry? One more. There's always room for one more. And I never forgot that. That was 13 years ago. That I want a youth ministry that always says, one more. There's always room for one more. All right? Here's our last one for this. Youth groups has lots of events. Hey, let's have a party, let's have a social, let's do this. So there's a lot of events happening in youth groups. Whereas a youth ministry says, hey, we have lots of opportunities. Lots of ways for people to get involved and do things and to grow and have ministry. So opportunities for people to serve and to give and to be a part of it. Whereas I think a youth group says, well, let's focus on the activities. What activities or events can we do together? Does this make sense? All right, I hope so. Not too fast or just right? All right, I got a thumbs. All right. Got some judges in the back. They're like 8.5. So, okay, so now I want to, any questions about those things, all right? Because what I want to do is I want to take the next probably 20 minutes, I'm lying, next 30 minutes, and give you 10 what I want to call the more importance. 10 more. So I want to give you 10 things that are important for youth ministry, but 10 things that are even more important. Okay? So we're going to call them the more important. So as a youth leader and pastor, our lives are busy with important activities and meetings. All right? So our lives are busy. So I want to share with you things that are the more important. Because we all have these busy lives, I don't want to just focus on important things. I want to focus my life and my ministry on the more importance. So I want to juxtapose, if I use that word with you guys? No. I want to compare these two things. Important versus more important. So there are going to be a lot of things that are important to have in youth ministry. But if we're going to grow like we did as a youth ministry and now a campus ministry, if we want to see growth, then I think it's better for us to focus on the more importance. So there are important things, but let's be people will focus on the most important things in ministry. So, number one, activities. Activities are important, okay? It's important that we have activities, but I would say attention is more important. Intention is more important than activity. And we need to have activities in our youth ministry, right? The international language for young people is fun, right? Like when I invite people to our church or our youth ministry, the first question a teenager says to me is it fun? You know, they don't say, oh, do you worship God for hours? How much time do you spend in prayer, right? You know, most young people, when I invite them to our youth ministry, the first thing they want to know is if it's fun. So that's why we have icebreakers, right? That's why we have activities. We go out for ice cream. We have fun activities. We go karaoke in our youth ministry. So activities are fun. We want to do these fun things. So activities are important for us to have. But more important than activities is attention. Showing attention to students. Giving our attention and building relationships with students. That this is the focus of our ministry. That we use activities to build relationships with young people. Okay, this is more important. That I've been to youth ministries that had lots and lots of activities, but no one ever built any friendships. So when they went off to university or they left the church because no one ever paid any attention to them. So when there weren't any activities, they didn't come to church. So activities are important, but more important than activities is showing people attention. Now, at my age, because I'm 41, it's actually easier for me to plan activities than to show people attention. All right? So the older you get, it's actually easier for me to plan an event and have a great time. So for me, I have to be very intentional and focused. So when I'm at an activity, I make sure I sit down and I talk with people. And I eat with them. And I hear their story. And God opens opportunities for me to minister. So I use the activity to show attention towards young people. Okay? I'm convinced of this. That you don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need a big youth ministry with great sound system and lighting and all this cool stuff. I think young people will come to a youth ministry if they feel like they're important. If they know someone knows their name and is going to care about them. Sometimes we look at other churches that have these great big youth ministries or lights and activities, and we're like, oh, if we could do that, wow, we could build our youth ministry. But I think more important than activities is showing attention to young people. Activities are important, but giving young people attention is more important. Amen? Amen. The key truth. Activities are important, but giving young people attention is more important. So let's understand that. All right. Everyone say number 2. Programs are important. We need to have programs in our youth ministry, all right? You can't just say, if you don't have a program, you don't have a youth ministry, right? You need to have programs. You have to have a worship service, small groups, discipleship, Sunday school. These are all important programs. Next week at AIYS, we're going to talk about programming, how to have successful and effective programming. When I travel throughout Indonesia, one of my main topics for training youth leaders is how to program with purpose, right? So programs are important. You need to have programs in your youth ministry. But more important is passion. Having passion for your programs. If we're just doing programs without passion, we'll never be effective. But let's have passion for our program. So when we think of our programs in our youth ministries, are you passionate about it? Why are you doing them? When I became a youth pastor, my pastor told me that we had to have Sunday school. He said, okay, Pastor Jamie, you have to have a Sunday school. Man, in my church, Sunday school was the most boring thing ever, all right? You know, it was Sunday morning, the teens were tired, I was tired, they didn't want to be there, I didn't want to be there, because Wednesday was our youth service. That was crazy, it was loud music, but Sunday school, brutal. No one wanted to be there. I was the pastor, and I didn't want to be there. Forgive me, all right? So I was thinking, like, why am I doing this Sunday school? Well, number one, because my pastor told me I had to, all right? So I had to think, like, well, how can I change this program so it's something that I'm passionate about? Because our Sunday school was teacher, students. Teacher standing and talking, students sitting and listening. I thought, man, this isn't discipleship. No one's connecting. No one's growing. They're sleeping while I'm talking, like you. So I'm like, what can I do to make this something I'm passionate about? So we make the decision. On Sunday mornings, instead of having Sunday, we'll call it Sunday school, but let's change the program to small groups. So instead of having a teacher and people sitting and listening, let's sit in circles and let's have relationships being built. And let's let people connect with each other and discipleship happen in small groups. Instead of teacher, student, what if we switched it to small groups? Because I'm passionate about small groups. I want to see teens connect with other teens. But in Sunday school, it was teacher, student, and nobody was connecting. But in small groups, wow, students connect. And now they're building friendships and they're building relationships. So when they come to youth group, when they come to the worship service, they already have friends. They're already connected. They're already growing in the Lord. And so I was able to take the program of Sunday school and say, hey, how can we turn it so it's something I'm passionate about? Many of you have programs already in your church, and they're not that effective. But your pastor or your leader said you have to do it. So how can you twist it so that it becomes something you're passionate about? For me, it was taking Sunday school and turning it into small groups. And within 1 year, in less than 1 year, our attendance doubled in our Sunday school. Do you think my pastor was happy that we had AIYS? Yes, he was very happy because we went from having a small Sunday school to having a huge Sunday school because everybody wanted to be in a small group. They wanted to connect. So programs are important, but passion is more important because passion gives birth to passion. When you're passionate about something, you pass it on to someone else. So when I really care about something, the people I'm mentoring and leading, they're going to care about it. But if I'm just doing a program, they're not going to care. So passion gives birth to passion. So what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? Let's focus our youth ministries on that. Everyone say number 3. All right, number 3. Numbers are important. Attendance is important, okay? We need to know how many people come to our youth ministry. I can tell you the exact number every week, how many students come to our youth ministry. We take attendance every single week because my pastor always wants to know. And now that I'm a pastor, I want to know, all right? So attendance is important because every number has a name, every name has a story, and every story is important to Jesus. So if you're too spiritual, you're like, I just want to, God doesn't care about numbers. I'm like, yes, he does. Because every number has a name, every name has a story, and every story is important to Jesus. So man, you should know exactly how many people are involved in your youth ministry. So when someone doesn't attend, you know they're not there. When you have a lot of people there, you're like, wow, why are there so many people? So attendance is important. In the English Bible, numbers are so important that in the English Bible, there's a whole book of the Bible called Numbers. All right, so that's how important numbers are to God. All right, so numbers are important. All right, but here's what's more important: health, a healthy youth ministry. That's more important than big attendance, is a healthy youth ministry. I would rather have a healthy youth ministry than a large youth ministry. I'd rather be growing a ministry that is healthy and producing disciples than having a big youth ministry where it's not healthy, where there's gossip and there's no commitment, there's no growth. So I'd rather have a healthy youth ministry than a big ministry. So build a healthy youth ministry and the numbers will come. I meet too many pastors who are concerned about numbers and don't focus on the health of their church. Build a healthy youth ministry. Build a healthy youth ministry where youth are welcomed and Jesus is worshipped, and the numbers will follow. And the numbers will come. Healthy things grow. It's like a plant, okay? You know, my wife, she's got plants and flowers and things like that. I don't know anything about that. But I do know that with a plant, when she waters it and she takes care of it, she keeps it healthy, it grows, right? So when we take care of our youth ministry and we're doing it where students are welcome and Jesus is worshiped and we make it healthy, it's gonna grow. Healthy things grow. So numbers are important, but health is more important. Here's the big truth. Bigger is not better. Better is better. That's kind of funny, right? No? Okay. So he didn't think it was funny, but that's okay. I think it's funny. Bigger is not better. Healthier. Or better is better. That's funny. No, okay, whatever. Forget it. I'm funny. All right. Number 4. Everyone say number 4. Number 4. Quality is important. A quality youth ministry is important. You should take your youth ministry seriously and have pride in what you do. You should be prepared when you show up for your youth programs. You should have quality programs to offer youth. So quality is important. But I think longevity is more important. Being there for a long time, being committed to your church and your youth ministry is better than just having quality youth ministries. The longer you stay in youth ministry, or the longer you stay at your church, the more influence you have and the bigger impact that you will have. So don't think of youth ministry as, oh, it's just to entertain the kids, or it's a stepping stone to something bigger. No, commit yourself long-term to your youth ministry. Find a church in a city that you can become the youth pastor, not at that church, but of that whole community. That you see myself, now this is my city, and I want to take care of the youth of my city. And commit yourselves to being there long term. It's incredible for me to see 10 years now in Indonesia, and to see Rachel, who came in just as a teen, to see her grow and be discipled, be empowered, make some mistakes, learn from her mistakes. And now she's on my staff. And that's what longevity does. When you commit yourself to a place for a long time, suddenly your teens become your staff. Suddenly your young people become your most trusted friends and partners in the ministry. That takes time. There's no way to make it faster. It just takes a long commitment to staying in one spot and developing young people. So, the key truth is this. Youth ministry gets better and easier the longer you last. It just gets better. Guys, it just gets better. Because now, when I was young, when I was your age, I look around and there's so many cool people here, and then me. When I look around, man, your youth that you work with, you're maybe 5, 10 years older than them, right? They're more like little brothers and sisters for you. When you become old, like some of us in this room, where's my old people? All right. When you become old and your hair gets gray, you don't have brothers and sisters in your youth ministry anymore. They're not your little brothers and your little sisters. When you become old, they become your spiritual sons and daughters. Guys, there's nothing better than having spiritual sons and daughters. Longevity is worth it. It becomes better and better and better. So stay committed to it. All right, number 5. Everybody say number 5. Number 5. Adult helpers are important. Adult helpers are important. Man, we need adults, other adults in our youth ministry to help us, all right? You need other adults to volunteer. When I became a youth pastor, our church owned 3 bands, okay? I was 23 years old, and the law was you had to be 25 years old to drive the vans, all right? So I was the youth pastor, and I couldn't drive the vans, all right? So I had to find adult helpers. I needed people to help me drive the vans because I just wasn't old enough. So in our youth ministry, we need adult helpers, all right? Adult helpers are important. But more important than adult helpers is godly leaders. That in our ministries, we want to have godly leaders. Adults who are committed to minister to young people. We can't do it alone. We need godly leaders around us. We need to find godly adults to help you, who like you and love God. Ooh, I'm going to say that again. When I recruit godly leaders, guys, I'm passionate about youth ministry and seeing young people know Jesus. Most adults are not passionate. I discovered something. I'm weird. Guess what? You're weird. All right? Because you want to invest your lives in young people. Most people at your church, not so much. They want to be involved with women's ministry, men's ministry, Bible study, worship team. But we are set apart. We are the weird ones. All right? So, how do we recruit other adults to work with us and youth who aren't as passionate and called like us? Here's my 2 requirements for adult leaders, all right? This changed everything in our youth ministry. This is how I find adult volunteers or godly leaders. Number 1, do they love God? Number 2, do they like teens? That's it. They don't need to love teens. They don't need to love youth and say, oh man, I'm just passionate. No. If they love God and like youth, God can use them. All right? So when I first became a youth pastor, I wanted everybody to be passionate about youth ministry and love young people. But I found out that most adults don't. But if they can love God and like youth, then they're that God can use them to impact a young person's life. All right? So I encourage you to find shepherds and to grow godly leaders, not just adult helpers. Most of the time when I go to a youth ministry, I'll see the youth leader, the youth pastor up front, and adults standing in the back. But I love going to a healthy youth ministry where I see the godly leaders mixed in with the youth. And that's how I know, wow, that's a healthy youth ministry. The adults aren't there just to be the police. But there's godly leaders involved in students' lives. So this is the way I look at it. Here's the key truth. I'd rather have one godly leader than 20 adult helpers. I'd rather have one godly leader who's involved, who's sitting next to the teens and discipling and mentoring, than 20 adults standing in the back, just watching. That's what I would say is more important. Yes, adult helpers are important, but godly leaders are even more important. What number are we on? 6. All right. I think this is my favorite point. Yes, this is my favorite one. Relevance is important. Relevance is important. It's important to know the interests of young people and what's happening in their world. It's important to know what young people like and what they are listening to. It's important to be relevant. All right? Pastor Terry is going to spend the next 2 sessions talking about being relevant, talking about this next generation. So relevance is important. You should know what television shows and what music they're listening to. Right now, many of you are young. So the music your youth are listening to is probably the same music you're listening to. The music my youth are listening to is not the kind of music I listen to. I'm like, turn it down, it's too loud, all right? The older I get, the more quiet I like my music, all right? So the young youth, they just want to keep turning it up. Then I say, turn it down. Then I leave, they turn it up, all right? So relevance is important. We should know what kind of music and television shows they are listening to. When I moved to Indonesia from America, I had to learn about Indonesian culture, right? I had to learn what kind of music, what kind of culture, what kind of things Indonesians like. I didn't say, well, I'm working with young people. I don't need to know anything about Indonesian culture. No, it was important for me to learn the Indonesian culture so that I could be a more effective missionary, right? To be more effective youth leaders, we need to know the youth culture. We need to understand the way they think and process their information. So relevance is important. This is my favorite one. Relationships are more important. This is the key truth. You don't have to be cool. You don't have to be able to play acoustic guitar and have long hair and like throw it back and be like, oh, you know. You don't have to have a tattoo and wear like the coolest and have the earring and know all the coolest words and slang. If you have relationship, then you are relevant in a young person's life. When that young person knows you care, then you're relevant. Building relationships with youth is the key to everything that we're doing here. When you build a relationship with a young person and they know you care about them, it doesn't matter if you're cool or not cool. It doesn't matter if you're 40 years old, 25 years old, or 60 years old. If you have a relationship with a young person, you have everything you need. I don't think I'm that cool. I know I'm old, and I'm only getting older, all right? I can't wear skinny jeans. I look hilarious. I look like a clown if I wear skinny jeans, all right? So I'm not gonna be that person anymore. But if I can build relationships, then I've got everything I need. Then I'm relevant. Relevance is important, but building relationships is more important. I don't have to have a tattoo or own a pair of skinny jeans. I don't have any piercings, but I can build a relationship with a young person. And when I have that, I have everything I need. When you have a relationship, you have relevance in a youth's life. That's a good one. We should just end, right? Like that's like, yeah, that's cool. That's a good one. All right. I meet a lot of cool youth pastors, but who are good at putting on programs. But I believe that it's more important for us to build relationships with young people, relationships that will last. Okay, I'm running out of time. We're going to go, I'll speak slow, but I'm not going to explain these next points. What number are we? 7. All right. Attraction is important. We want to build a youth ministry that attracts young people, right? That wants to bring young people in. Attracting young people is important. And that's what activities do, right? That's why activities are important. That we want to bring people, we don't want to keep people away. We want to bring them in. Attraction is important. But more important than attraction is retention. Keeping students in our youth ministries, right? Because you could have a concert and a huge activity and you could have 100 teens show up, right? Woohoo! And then next week, you have 10. So more important than attraction is retention. How can we keep people coming back week after week after week? How do we make disciples who make disciples who make disciples? How do we retain and keep students? You can spend a lot of money on youth ministry and build a big youth ministry. You can hold a concert and have Planet Shakers or Hillsong come to your church and have a huge attendance, and then the next week in your youth ministry, it'd be small again. I think retention is more important than attraction. So attracting youth is good, but helping youth, but keeping youth is more important. The key truth: we can't compete with the world's entertainment, but they can't compete with the relationships we offer. Guys, we'll never be able to have concerts like the world has. We can't have activities that the world has. But guess what? They can't compete with the relationships and the authenticity that we can offer a young person. They can't do it. They can draw big crowds, but man, we can keep students coming back week after week after week. Attraction is important, but retention is more important. All right. Let's see here. Oh, we got it. All right. This is the most important point. It's my second favorite. But number 8. Everybody say number 8. Models of youth ministry. Models of youth ministry are important. It's great to learn from other youth ministries. There are lots of good models of ministry. And you're going to learn a lot at AIYS, especially next week. You're going to learn some different models for discipleship, for having a creative work. Today we're going to talk about having a creative worship service. So models of youth ministry are important. But more important is the mystery of God. We need to rely on this mystery of God, that there's something spiritual in our youth ministry. I know this sounds obvious and basic, but sometimes we focus on the models and the programs and how do I build my youth ministry, and we forget that youth ministry is supernatural. That's something that God builds His church. That the Holy Spirit captures people's hearts, not our programs. So you don't need to buy all the books on youth ministry and go to the seminars and say, hey, if you do these 5 things, your youth ministry will grow. Programs are important, but the mystery that God builds His church, that God builds it, that's more important. This is especially true when it comes to youth services, right? That we can program God right out of our youth programs, right? That we can have, okay, we're going to do 3 songs, then icebreaker, then preach, and then and we have a program set, and we never think, oh yeah, we should probably pray about it. So sometimes we can program the mystery of God and His presence. We can program God out of our youth ministry. I learned this lesson the hard way, or in a funny way. We were doing a back-to-school kickoff. We were doing a brand new, we were going to try to bring in a couple hundred teens to the youth ministry. And man, we had a band. We were going to have a concert that night. We were going to do some crazy games. I had one of the girls that had gotten radically saved in our youth ministry. She was going to share her testimony. So man, I planned this incredible outreach, okay? So this was going to be the biggest night for our youth ministry ever, okay? It was September, everybody was going back to school. We were calling it our back to school kickoff, all right? We email, invite, social media, we're expecting hundreds. And guess what happened? Hundreds of teens came. And I was so excited, all right? And then suddenly, the band that was supposed to play, the lead singer got sick and lost his voice. He couldn't sing. Then the guitar player, during the practice time, broke 2 strings on his guitar. So the band starts to play, and they're terrible. So finally, I'm just like, stop the concert. All right, it's so bad. So we stop the concert. Then the girl who's supposed to share her awesome testimony, she throws up. She's too nervous, and she gets sick. And she's like, I can't do it. So now, the concert is canceled. The awesome testimony canceled. And then to make things worse, somebody in the crowd had terrible gas. All right, so you know what I'm saying? So it just smelled so bad. All right, how can I say this? Dude, in boss. All right, all right. So they were passing gas. They were farting. All right, so the whole room just smelled. So we had terrible music, no testimony, and the whole room smelled. I thought, this is terrible. This is the worst youth ministry night of my life. I mean, we ended early. I prayed and sent everybody home. I was like, this is the biggest disaster of youth ministry ever. 2 girls come up after, or 3 girls, a friend, a girl from our youth ministry, and 2 of her friends that she brought from school came forward afterwards. She said, Pastor Jamie, my 2 friends want to talk to you. And we sit down, and her 2 friends, they start crying. They say, Pastor Jamie, we've never felt this before. We feel something different in this place. We feel the presence of God. And I said to him, that was not the presence of God. God was nowhere near this place. I don't know where God was, but He wasn't here, all right? I don't know what you felt, but it wasn't. But it reminded me, there's a mystery to this youth ministry thing, right? I didn't feel like God was there. It was a disaster. It was a complete failure. But God still touched 2 people's lives and changed them. And that's the mystery of God. Yes, models are important for youth ministry, but the mystery of God is even more important. The key truth: if you came to our ministry in Indonesia and looked around and asked questions about what makes certain things work, I'll have to tell you, I don't know. I just don't know what makes it work. But I know when you focus on Jesus, God does something, but I can't explain it. So if you were to come to our ministry in Indonesia and you were to ask our leaders, how come you're growing? How are you reaching people? I think most of our leaders would say, I don't know. It's just, there's a mystery to youth ministry. That when you focus on Jesus, something just happens. Something just happens. So models of youth ministry are important. The mystery of God is more important. You good? Just taking a little. All right, almost done. Everyone say number 9. 9. Youth are important. Obviously, we need youth if you're going to have a youth ministry. All right? If you don't have any youth, then it's not a youth ministry. All right? So youth are important, but more important are caring adults. People like you and me who are going to care about those young people. That we are called by God to be stewards of youth's lives. That you can't do it alone. That as your youth ministry grows, we need caring adults, volunteers who love God and like you. Here's my story. When I became a youth pastor, I was just 23 years old. I was at the 3rd largest Assemblies of God church in America. Okay, 3,000 people every Sunday at our church. Huge, 100 teens. So I had my first meeting with my youth leaders. Okay, when I became the youth pastor, there was 8 adult leaders, 8 volunteers. So that first meeting, it's a Sunday night. I type out my vision statement. I have my core values. I share with them, this is the vision. This is where we're going. I'm funny. I'm passionate. I'm giving them motivation. I'm cool. I'm relevant. I'm like, this is where we're going. I pour out my heart. I'm like, here's my heart. This is where we're going. And I was thinking, wow, these 8 leaders, we're going to change the world together. At the end of the meeting, 5 of the leaders came to me and said, you know, Pastor Jamie, I think we're going to look for a different ministry. What? My heart was, I thought, wow, I just shared my heart. And now 5 of them are leaving. So it was me and 3 volunteers for this huge youth ministry that I was in charge of. And over the next 8 years, as our youth ministry grew, I invested in those 3. And those 3 turned to 6. Those 6 turned into 12. Those 12 to 24. 24 to 48. And when I left the youth ministry after 8 years, we had 65 adult leaders. Because youth are important, but having godly leaders, caring adults is more. How did we have a youth ministry of 500? Because we had caring adults. We invested. And remember those 3 leaders that stayed with me? Guess what? They stayed with me all 8 years. So, yes, youth are important, but caring adults are even more important. They'll help you grow your youth ministry. All right? So, the key truth here, godly adults who love God and like you. Godly adults who love God and like you. Last one, here we go. Number 2. Talking about God. Duh. Like, this is important, right? It's in youth ministry, we should talk about Jesus. All right, that's important, right? You have to teach the Bible. You have to talk about Jesus and disciple young people. That's important, and we should take this responsibility very seriously. We're talking about God to young people. But more important than talking about God is talking with God. Too often I meet youth leaders who spend so much time talking about God, preaching every week, teaching every week. They're always talking about God, but they never spend time talking with God. It's more important that you and I, as youth leaders, spend time talking with God, not just about God. to our young people. I think of it this way. I serve as the mediator between God and you. As I hear from God, I communicate God's voice to my young people. I have got to be someone who is talking with God, not just about God. I think of it this way. I stand in the middle. I have my hand on the pulse of the students and my other hand on the pulse of God. And that's the vision that I have for myself. Is I stand here in the middle. What's God saying to my young people? How do I take it and make it relevant for my young people? And then, what are the needs of my young people, and how can God meet those needs? So I stand in the middle as the communicator. What are the struggles of my young people? What are the struggles of my young people? And how do I communicate God's word to them? You and I as youth leaders, we are the mediators. We stand between God and the youth. Talking about God is good, is important. But talking with God is more important. And I found these 10 things. If I focus on the more importance, I can build a large youth ministry. I can grow a healthy youth ministry. All of our lives are busy. There's a lot of important things that have to be done. But let's be people who focus on the more importance. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for a group of youth leaders who committed their lives not just to the important things, but to the more important. Help us to be relational and spend time with students. Help us to talk with you, not just about you. Help us to